Hi, boys and girls. My name is Louie the Larva. I'm here today to talk to you about a 13-letter word that has to do with science, and it has to do with me. It's the word metamorphosis. Boys and girls, can you say that like Louie? Metamorphosis. Now, what in the world does this giant word mean? Well, in science, the word metamorphosis means change. And if you can pull these letters out, there's the word morph. And morph means to change. So in science, metamorphosis is when an animal changes from one stage into another. Louie wants to tell you his story. Hey, boys and girls, did you know I wasn't always a giant caterpillar? Do you know what, boys and girls? My mama laid me as an egg. Can you believe it? Look here, boys and girls. When I was just a little young thing, I was an egg. That's how my first life began. I was an egg. And then I came out of that egg, and I was a larva. Now, I wasn't always this big, boys and girls, but I love to eat green leaves. I ate them and ate them and ate them and ate them. Did you know what, boys and girls? There's a book here at the library called The Very Hungry Caterpillar. And that's what caterpillars love to do. They love to eat. And so when the caterpillar grows, he is called a larva. Now, this larva is going to eat until it gets big, like Louie here. And then he's going to go through a change. He is going to morph. He's going to go through metamorphosis. And so after he gets nice and full of all those little green leaves, he is going to build himself a little house. Here's the house that butterflies make. Boys and girls, this is a chrysalis, not a cocoon. And so when he becomes a chrysalis, he's called a pupa. Isn't that a neat word, boys and girls? I was a pupa when I was in my chrysalis. Now, boys and girls, I have a book here at the library called The Very Impatient Caterpillar. And in this book, there's a really cool page I want to show you. Here is the caterpillar inside his little chrysalis house. And he is waiting and waiting and waiting. He's like, why am I not changing? And he waits and he waits and he waits and he waits and he waits. And finally, after about 2 to 3 weeks, he changes into a beautiful butterfly. Now, Louie wants you to know that he is very excited that someday he will not be a larva anymore. He will become a beautiful butterfly, and that's an adult. All right, and then that adult butterfly will lay eggs, and the cycle will go over and over again. Now, remember, boys and girls, that a butterfly makes a chrysalis. Now, my friend, Mr. Moth, he makes the cocoon. His cycle is just like mine, but after the egg, he's a caterpillar, which is a larva, and then he is a cocoon, and then the adult. Now, what's the difference between butterflies and moths, you might ask? Well, butterflies love to flitter around during the day. Moths like to come out at night, and they like to use the light to swarm around and catch bugs. Now, butterflies and moths are not the only critters that go through metamorphosis. I want to tell you about another friend of mine. Okay, so Mr. Louie wants to tell you something else, boys and girls. There is another critter that's a friend of mine that starts off with an egg just like me. Take a look at this, boys and girls. I'm going to move over here just a little bit. This is another egg. Now, can you tell me who starts off with an egg like this? Well, if you guessed frog, you were right. Now look at that. To go from an egg to a frog, they have to go through a change. Let me show you real quick what happens. So here are the frog eggs. And I bet, boys and girls, right now, if you go out to a pond, you can find some of these. Look at that. From an egg to a tadpole. They're pretty cool. And then that tadpole grows back legs. And then he grows front legs and he gets his little swimmers. You know what, boys and girls? This is called a froglet. A froglet is a pretty cool word, isn't it? Just like I was a larva, my little friend here, he was a froglet. Then his body begins to grow bigger and bigger, and the tail gets shorter and shorter. And then this is sort of a funny stage when the frog has just a tiny bit of a tail left. All right, boys and girls, once that tail disappears, he turns into a full-fledged adult, and that adult will lay the eggs, and the cycle happens all over again. Well, boys and girls, I sure hope you've enjoyed this little lesson on life cycles. I'm Louie the Larva here at Fayette County Public Library, and I hope that you will join Miss Lisa again in 2 weeks for another awesome science lesson. Bye, boys and girls!